Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a learning and growing webinar on effective engagement strategies to increase student learning outcomes. Our presenter today is Dr. Dale Green of Oklahoma Baptist University. My name is Sidra, and I'll be your moderator today for Hawks Learning. We will have a live Q&A session after the presentation, so please enter any questions you have into the module, and we'll answer them at the end. I'll now hand it over to our presenter.
Well, thank you, Sidra. Well, welcome. I'm Dr. Darrell Green. As she mentioned, I am with the Oklahoma Baptist University. I am going to share my screen. I'm glad to know you guys are out there, and we're going to have a great experience. So we're going to be talking about innovative engagement of a Gen Z. So how many of you want to engage your students? There's a chat box. I want you to just tell me yes or no if you want to engage your students. Let's just get started, okay? On that note, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start with a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. He was an innovator. He was also a Renaissance man. He said there are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who cannot see. So I am hoping through in this presentation, you will be one of those individuals. So I have given this presentation several times with Dr. Dunn. She is one of the people that I've done it with. She's a scholar and a dean at Benedict College in South Carolina. So we've tested this, and also done it at my school. So let's also find out who's in the room. Okay, so I'm kind of curious. I'm just going to look in the chat box. Give a shout out to where you're at. Tell me where you're located. I'm just kind of interested. I like the fact you guys want to engage. Let me know where you're at. Oh, Florida. I like that. Okay, I like that. Charlotte. Okay, good deal. Great job. So we certainly want to. So if I was in the classroom, I would say a shout out to each one of you. And again, we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation today. So thank you for participating. So if I had 100 years, we could do this subject justice, but I only have a limited amount of time. So we're just gonna go work with what we have. A little bit about myself. So I think it's important to understand who is the seminar leader, who's the presenter. My name is, again, Dr. Darrell Green. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. I got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from Southern University in Baton Rouge. Matter of fact, I met my wife there, Estrelita. She was a civil engineer. Decided that we were going to accept a job at the Department of Energy. We did not know that was going to take us 3,000 miles away, and our first career was in Washington State. At the Department of Energy, I managed nuclear and non-nuclear projects. But I wanted more out of life. Can anybody say more? I wanted more out of life. I went back and got my master's degree, went back and got my doctorate degree, and finished it in 2009. And what I did, I think, is crazy. So I decided at 50, I was going to retire. And one of my mentors told me, what about teaching full time? So I retired at 50 in 2016 and accepted a job at Oklahoma Baptist University, where I am the Dickinson Chair. I'm an associate professor. I teach leadership, management, marketing, and leadership. And one of the distinctions I would say last year I received the Teacher Excellence Award from ACBSP. But here's a bigger fact that I really appreciate. Last year, I got the award, and we have probably over 90 faculty. I was selected as one of the faculty who care. And I think that stands out because what I teach is very different. I take the management and business principles, and I show the practical side of that. That's my engineering background. So one of the things that I always try to target is how we better engage the students. And since I've been starting this with the graduate and undergraduate students, my students have donated over 2,000 2,000 hours of consulting time where they're actually doing something for the clients, and that really helps the learning. So we could talk about that. So that's Dr. Dunn. She's an amazing professor. So now, as I mentioned, I believe in engaging students, and I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to give you inner workings. What happened in 2020? Can anybody put that in the chat room? What happened in 2020 that was very magical? That really was disruptive. I'll just see if you guys do that. So I got an email from one of my students in my business communications class, and this is at the end of the semester. This is what he said: Dr. Green, I just want to thank you for teaching the business communication semester. It was probably the most fun, and I learned a lot. So I want to ask you this. This is rhetorical. You don't have to respond. But I want to ask you, how many of your students were excited about your class? Okay. So I'm going to say something probably sacrilegious in academia. Learning can be fun, and students can learn a lot. Okay. So you might say, all right, academic, what is results matter? So I'm just going to share my approach and some of the results that I've gotten. So last year, we do a business exam, national exam. It's called the ETS exam. Very difficult exam. It covers all the course materials that is selected over eight subject areas. And I just had an average class. I didn't have the MITs. I mean, there were some good students, but it wasn't all honor students. And last year, it shocked me. The students ranked in the 90th percentile. And here's what's even amazing, that the student that had the highest score was a 99th percentile. She was a non-traditional student. She was a working mother. And my dean, my chair asked her, how in the world did you do so well? And she said, it goes back to Dr. Green's class. And that is what I really want to emphasize. The other thing I want to mention, we have a business simulation. Some of you do this in the capstone called Capsion. Very difficult simulation. I deal with that. And I had students last year, this time, scored in the top 1%. And I do believe it's because the way that I engage and I innovate. And what I'm going to say is really no secret. I'm going to share that approach with you today. So first of all, we got to go old school. We're going to go back. We're going to go back a time. I just want you to look at this chart. And I'm going to say something very bold. I don't think the way we teach has really changed very, very much. At the middle of the classroom, you have that sage. You have Socrates or Aristotle giving wisdom, and students are sitting all around the table. So you may say, "Hey, we have changed." So yes, we have gone from the blackboard to the chalkboard. But I'm going to suggest to you, how we teach has really not changed. I would say majority of professors that teach today, they teach with the subject in mind. And not to say that's throwing shade or that's disrespectful. I'm just saying that is how we teach. And what I'm going to show you, that is a big disconnect between how students learn today. So a little bit about the base of our research in doing this. We're going to look at Kobler's learning style, which is the focus is on that. The focus is on the experience of the learning, and he breaks it down into the active experimentation, planning to train out what you learn, concrete experiment is one of the things that they talk about in that scenario. Doing or having experience, reflective observation, you do it, and what did you learn from that? Abstract concepts means learning from that experience, and then it's a do loop. That is just the basis of this whole class that we're talking about, a seminar. And if I had more time, I would do more. So as I would say, when I got into academia, probably in 2005 as an adjunct, that since I became involved full-time in 2016, I have been fascinated about how do you make students career ready? So I've done research with several other scholars and trying to break that. And I found one of the key cornerstones of that if you do not understand your students, you cannot be successful. So I'm going to ask another question again using the chat. Do you really know your students? Most of Gen Z, do you really understand your students? Tell me yes or no. Just be honest. No one to know. This is virtual. It's anonymous. But I just want to, do you really know your students? I'm just kind of curious because I think in most cases that we really don't know the students. Maybe we know them by the number, especially if you're in a big school. So one of the questions that has to come up because you guys are brilliant is, Dr. Green, why change? Why change? And I just gonna be honest with you. If you look at 2020 was very disruptive, but I'm going to submit to you that the things that were going on, the education system was already struggling. Okay, I'm going to use it very nicely. Since 2010, we have seen the academic population decrease. Okay, there's been tons of predictions about the schools collapse between 2011 and 2013. Enrollment in most American schools has declined by nearly 1 million students. Thank for that for a minute. So I'm just going to go over some quick disruptive forces. I am not covering all of them because that would take us a long time. That would be that 100 years that we need to cover this material. But I'm just going to submit the first thing is America has, over the years, Americans, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're red or blue, they have a misgivings about education. I would say, about 10 of them have a negative feeling about academics. And that is a big shift, according to Gallup. That is a big shift, that Americans really don't know if the education is worth it. Now, we know it's academia, and we see statistics that you're better off with a college degree than without one. But that is really the background that's going on right now. The accountability takes place. Also, the demographic changes, which I really think is, well, let's talk about the technology. The technology is changing. Again, I know some of you probably nervous about Chat GPT, but the other things, the innovation, being able to do Zoom. When I first went in the workforce, the video conferencing, and I worked for the federal government, was poor. And now we've come a long way. Where I have guests coming all across the world, Germany, South Africa. So those are great. But also, I just want to mention about the demographics changes, which I think is pretty significant. So here's something to think about. By 2044, more than half of all Americans are projected to belong to a minority group. Okay, and by 2060, nearly 1 in 5 of the nation's total population is projected to be foreign-born. Does that? And so think about in the classroom. Are your stories? Is your work experience? Is it relatable to the students that you're dealing with? And so that is some of the things. Those are the reasons why you should consider changing. Because if you stand still, like I showed that status quo slide, you're going to be in a bad situation. So I want to talk about this generation. So here's what I want to say. In the chat, you might put this down there, but for the first time in American history, we have 5 generations that exist. I'm going to do this right off the cuff because I spent so much time in it. One of my research has been on the emerging changes in the federal government. That was a textbook, Impending Danger. So one of the things I want to say, there are 5 generations. So let's think about this. We have the greatest generation. They were born in before 1945. And they were very loyal, very respectful. Then you have the baby boomers, born 1946 to 1964. A lot of turmoil during that time. The Vietnam War, Civil Rights Movement. You had the women's movement. A lot of things going on that shaped them. Did you have? I would say Generation X, which is my generation. We call them latchkey kids. Uh, they were born in 1965 to 1981. Then millennials, a lot of times professors get this wrong. They think the students in the classroom were millennials. They're really not. Born 1982, 80s to 1990, 94, 95, okay? Very digital natives. And then we're talking about the generation that's in your classroom. If you have traditional students, 17, 18, is Generation Y. Generation Y is, here's the thing about Generation Y. Think about this. They're the most diverse digital natives and entrepreneurs that the world has ever seen. They make about 26% of them, about 23 million of them in America. And some nicknames, our generation, Nexters, next generation. So here's some traits about this generation. Their attention spans is 8 seconds. So I don't mean literally 8 seconds, but they're very short, okay? They're savers, they're social. I want you to think about this. Their life is an open book. Do you have kids? Anybody have kids or grandkids? Just tell me yes or no in the chat box. So that is very different. So they crave constant and immediate feedback. Again, they're digital natives. I want you to think about digital natives. Generation Z has never known a world without smartphones and social media. If they want something in terms of information, they just Google it. So I want to go back to this diversity thing. It's the most diverse and inclusive. Nearly half of them, about 48%, are racial or ethnic minorities, okay? So I want you to think about that traditional slide I showed of how academic has not changed. And I want you to think about the students you're dealing with. And so the way we teach is different. We say you can't have your cell phones. You know, some of them play on cell phones, but we have this lecture that we give them, and those things are not. They're divergent, and that is one of the issues. That's why I think this presentation is going to help a lot of individuals in terms of that. So here's the thing about the world. What is the world expecting? You know, people sitting in the classroom, people sitting at the theater, people are at the church or at the mosque, and they're looking for some things. First of all, they want you to be authentic. They want to be connected some way. There's a relationship. They want to feel a human experience. They want to have some interactions. All those things are very pertinent to this society. The society has changed. Some people don't want to mention that. Also, they want to be engaged. Moving on. So now, this is also important. So the learning approach of curriculum development is critical. So I'm gonna go back to that slide where there was a static slide that showed academic has not changed. I would say majority of the professors that teach, they teach with a subject-centered focus right here, this circle, and the focus is on the subject, okay? And so the students are paying attention. Here's the downside of that. Students are very passive. They're very just listening. Some of them maybe not they're listening, okay? Then you go to problem-centered curriculum. You probably think about your labs. They analyze the problem and it makes solutions. That is better than subject-centered, but it's still kind of passive. And then you go to the way I teach is learner-centered approach was what you meeting the students' needs. I'm going to let you know this, to be honest with you, from the time I started teaching full-time, the way I teach has changed. Why? Because the students have changed. And if I want to be effective, I gotta flow with them. And so let's talk about this. So in a passive role, go back to the lecture-centered, subject-centered. Students are passive and they're only listening. They aren't involved in the learning process. Contrast that to the learner-centered approach, where students are at the center of it, and in that mode, they're collaborating, critical thinking, solving problems, and connecting to the learning material. I think that's critical. So here's a certain research. There's a recent research that says higher education, that learning, student learning outcomes, which we care about, can be significantly improved through increased teaching quality, curriculum design innovation, and optimizing our resources. Again, if you do not know the students, then how do you make that happen? So that is very, very important. Okay, yeah, I agree. being authenticity is a big deal. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much for that comment. So I'm trying to do both things. So moving on, because I want to hear you. I want to get your insight on things. I think that's really how we have a good set. So now, what do we do, Dr. Green? I'd say you have to have a strategy. Okay, engaging strategy for students. First of all, it starts with your course design, your curriculum design. What is the goal for the class? What are you trying to accomplish? That goes just beyond. I'm just giving an example. It goes just beyond having objectives, having learning outcomes. In my classes, I also talk about the career readiness, and I connect the next learning elements. Those are the critical elements that employers say they need: critical thinking, communications. I actually map that to the assignments. So students can't tell me, Dr. Green, you're wasting my time. This is busy work. They don't say that. So that's important. The development of a plan of actions. Every week I have a weekly lesson plan, and it changes. Okay, communicate with students up front. So I set expectations. One of the things, and you would be amazed, I don't accept any late assignments. And I said, if you turn in a late assignment, you're going to get a 0. And I'm going to let you know, students have responded. I don't have that as an issue, but I see other professors. They're taking late work. It creates anxiety on them because students are doing that. They're not doing the work on the time, but it makes a difference. And here's something that most, not all, but some professors, they're unwilling to make an adjustment. My engineering professors, they weren't concerned about. They love me, they loved our students, but they weren't concerned about making those adjustments. They said, "You make the adjustments." Okay. So now I'm going to show you some things. We're going to talk about something I think is important. So how many of you want to improve your lecture? Give me a yes or no if you want to improve your lecture. Give me some feedback, please. I appreciate. Okay. We're gonna do that. So I'm gonna share a lecture. So majority of people do lecture. So I'm gonna give you some suggestions on doing that. So whether you're doing online or what are you doing in person, electronic polls, like I'm using the chat. That is one element that you can do. Here's something else. So I'm going to share this with you very quickly. I received tenure in last year. Praise the Lord. It was a remarkable achievement. So one of the things that I was given an opportunity to do last year was evaluate other faculty that's up for tenure. And so I was in the classroom. It was theology. It was a theology. He was dynamic. He was moving around. The class was 50 minutes. He lectured for 49 minutes. Okay. And so he thought he was doing a great job. And I'm just going to let you know, there were 24 people in the room. I was watching them, and only 13 was active. So, you got raised, that person, they raise their hand all the time. They answer all the questions. They want to hear themselves talk. Did anybody have any students like that? Yes or no? Okay. Put it in the chat box. And so I sat down with him, and I said, let me give you some constructive feedback about engaging students. And I'm going to let you know that professor went from less than 50% to all the way to 100%. And I'm going to give you an example. So here's the thing. So a lot of times we use tests and quizzes as understanding feedback. That is a laggard. I would suggest to you be more proactive. So one of the things I would say, I ask my class, do you understand the material? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Now I know that. So I can further ask some questions. And if you want to be more engaging, I'll say, all right, I want everyone to stand up or stand down if you understand the concept or you disagree. The class changes because students know in my class, there's a 90% chance they're going to say something in the class. Okay. The other thing I want to suggest to you, that's not the only way to get information around if you're student centered. So one of the things I do, it's probably sacrilegious. We do tours. We go to businesses. We take field trips. I've taken them to Walmarts. Don't laugh at me, please. I took them to the mall. Why did I take them there? I was teaching a sales class. I wanted them to understand what's the selling process. They were active. They were engaged. Also debates, guest speakers. I want to ask you this. How many of you, looking at your demographics of your class, of your school, bring in diverse speakers? Most times you don't. With the internet, you can do that all across the world. And that's one of the things we do. Role playing and skits. So here's a scenario I'm going to give you. I had I had to go out of town. I had another professor teach, a person come in and talk about, do a lecture. And I asked my students, I said, give me a video that you show that you can participate. So I'm going to share this video with you. Hopefully we got the sound. Here we go.
I'm Graham Stiefel. Laura Hagan came and spoke to our class today, and these were some of the things that I got out of it. In order to be successful in the micro internship, you have to know yourself well and know your strengths and weaknesses. It's important to feel prepared before starting your internship, so talking to people who have worked with this previous client before, have experience in certain areas, is very much encouraged.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Baird, and today my small business marketing class had the privilege of listening to Lori Higgins talk about 8 competencies that will help us in our micro internships. One that stood out to me was communication. She shared how communication can be verbal, written, and nonverbal.
I'm Thomas Meadow, and the key point that I wanted to share with you guys that I took away from Ms. Lori Higgins was utilizing the OBU's career portal. The OBU's career portal is a way for you to upload your resume, job experience, cover letter, all of that, so that way jobs and employers can see what you do outside of school. This is also a way for you to reach out to jobs, search jobs, and reach out to employers, so that way you can land internships and new job opportunities for you.
All right. So what's interesting about this, that I did this, I had another professor come in and he did a boot camp on sales. And I showed him the video because they had to give a video summary of what the professor was talking about. Believe it or not, he told me, he said, I didn't say all that stuff. Some of that stuff I didn't talk about. So that tells you that if you use this laggard assessment of quizzes and exams, you're going to miss the opportunity to really engage your students. I just think that's just one factor. Icebreakers. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. Starting your class off with a mixer. I normally, there are several things you can do. I like the birthday lineup. Have the students line up according to their birthdays, and then you break the class off. Again, chats. One of the things that I do is what we call pair share, where I have an assignment and I have the students pair off with another student, and then they share the information. Again, Generation Z likes instant and constant feedback, and that's one of the ways that we do that. Moving on, class discussion. I really love this. So I just want you to imagine, okay, I want you guys to close your eyes and just listen to me. I'll say in the classroom, it's the first day of class in Dr. Green's class. So we get in the classroom, they've already decided we're going to sit together, we're going to chat because you're my buddy. And when they get in my classroom, they find out that they're assigned by teams, and they have to sit with their teams. And why do that? Because I wanted that to be disruptive. I want their learning to be disruptive so they can follow. And what I've seen is that we talk about participation because I don't call out a student, because I think it's wrong to really call out a student because sometimes they can be put on the spot. What I do is I call out a team. I say, team 5, what do you say about this? And I say, all right, Mike or Pam, you already spoken. Let's give another teammate a chance to do that. And when guests come in, I say, hey, we got 5 or 6 teams. You can call any team to get responses. That changes the dynamic of the classes. People were engaged, and that is good. But also, I like to go back to the old school, and we do board work. So I have an assignment. I said, let's do board work, and the students get used to that. They really like that because a lot of times they're playing on their phones. Other things, I use case study analysis. I actually do that a lot, and I let the students lead it. So what I found is when I have case studies, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, I let the class teams do presentations on Wednesday. Now, one of the things I ask, give me a summary of the lessons that I lecture on Monday. And what it does is reemphasize the material. It makes sure they understand it. And one of the things I do that I've included, Sidra, I included a handouts for you guys to give you everything. One of those is an engagement form. So I know a whole lot of ways to do icebreakers and stuff. But the engagement form, I ask the students, every time you do a lecture or case, you have to do a learning activity. And I'm going to let you know, the students come up with some things I have never heard of. The students are having fun. They're learning. And so, whereas I don't become an entertainer, I don't become the center of attention, I put the emphasis on the students. It creates less work for me because they're actually evaluating what the students are doing and how they participate. And one time I was trying to, a class of 30 students, I was trying to make sure all the students were engaged, and I was doing that. Now the students do that as a part of their learning. So that is, so let the students lead some discussions, make sure that they understand the material. Again, that is real-time information that will help you be a better professor. Okay, technology is important. Technology is important, and you can use games, interactives. So what I want to show there is that, again, students can use technology here's the thing. One of the good things that happened out of COVID, and COVID was very problematic in terms of people dying, but one of the things is to use Zoom. And so now all of my final presentations are done on Zoom. And so I take that information, I reuse it. So the teams the classes that come in after them, they're better prepared and they can use it as a benchmark. So this is just an example of a student presentation. They're learning how to use Zoom. They're learning how to present, because I think that's the future of work. And so that is what I'm engaged. So
known as Team Erie, and this is our report over rounds 1 and 2 of the practice rounds. I'm going to hand it off to Deron, and he's going to go over research.
See how they're handing out, they're working together.
Okay, so for the research and development part, we kind of just played around with the numbers a little bit, try to stay in the range of
that's the example, but that's the future work. They're gonna be working, some of them are gonna be working remote, and so we've done that. So understanding, so if you're doing online, understanding breakout rooms, utilizing them, you can select the teams to be together, or it could be random, or it could let them pick. Kahoot is a good one, but these are the things that you can do. So you bring technology in your room. Kahoot allows you to use their phones. This is why we really engage our students, because we're dealing with Gen Z are digital natives, okay? Hope I'm doing good on time. Sid will let me know if I did. So now we're at a point right now, we're at a good holding point, because I think where this webinar gets really good is when you share your insight. So I am going to kind of show you my recommended readings. Again, there's about 1,000 activities, things that you can do to get your students engaged. But as I mentioned, I think it's far better that you teach them to engage each other than you doing it. So those are some games. Again, the handouts available for you guys. Here's my references. We didn't make stuff up. We're working housing paper. Some of that is our research that we've done. And I'm gonna shut this down so I could get more of your input. So CJ, would you come back and let's I want you to give me the first thing I want to ask you guys. Can you give me some examples of ways that you engage your students that I didn't mention? Because let's learn something. Can anybody give us some in the chat room, give us some things that you do. Sidra, will you help me out?
Sure.
Okay.
So we have some feedback. A lot of this is similar to the flipped classroom model, which they use. A huge benefit is that they're the facilitator versus sage on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the students are heavily involved this way.
I like the sage of the stage. Yeah, I use a flipped classroom most of the times, because most of the work they do is outside the classroom. I give them the parameters, so that's a great thing. So now, what do you think is the biggest challenge for being a professor in 2023? So give me a word or phrase. What do you think is the biggest challenge before you? Because the future of work is going to be different. So let's see what we can come up. Give me some things you think you're going to be challenged at right now as a professor in the 2030. Okay.
We have the biggest challenge is getting students to read the textbook, them using cell phones and laptops, student attendance and mental health, student engagement, and they will not read, helping students balance work and school,
Yes,
taking good notes. In general, student lives are complicated.
Wow. Great job. So I'm gonna give you guys want some tips, hits, and tricks. So let's deal with the reading. Students come in, I admit this, students come in, they hadn't read the book, they have assigned readings. So what have I done? Dr. Green, share this. There are some products online, and Hawks Learning probably has something similar, but I use a, not a quiz, but it's an artificial intelligence program about one publisher, and students have to take that before they come to class. And it gives, so if you answer, they don't have to read the whole chapters. What they do is skim the pages, and they get X a battery of questions or AI. And if they don't, they may get 100 questions. So my performance have gone up. I know students are reading, or at least reading the material. And that's one of the things that I would say. But mental health is a big deal. And I just think being available, being accessible. And if you're not built like that, I'd say one of the things that you may want to do is align with another professor. And I think mentoring is being mentored and mentoring professors is very important. And having like Hawks Learning is important. I really thank them for doing that. So any other, what are some questions? Any questions for me that I can address, could help you guys out, because I need help. So great discussions.
We do have a question. How do you best integrate technology in the classroom?
Okay, that is a great question. I'm going to give you a definitive answer. It depends. It depends on the students that I'm working with. I think for me, certainly I use our learning management system. That all my materials are on the learning management system. And there are spots where I do let students use their phones. Because if you take, it's like elementary school, you take kids' phones, if they're in 5th, 4th grade, they'll get mad, they'll have a fight. And so I do think embracing the technology is good. I think you have to pace yourself, but I think you need to, so my thing is I can't know all the technology. And so like for one thing, I'm gonna give you an example. My students say, Dr. Green, because I teach marketing, they say, Dr. Green, you need to get on Instagram. Didn't know anything about Instagram. I don't need anything to do, but I listen to them and I've become a better professor because now I understand that I have to have one student, he's an influencer, he has 1 million followers on TikTok. And so I just think asking the students, how can I best, and that's what we don't do. But I would say I do this, I do at midweek, midterm, semester, I have index cards, it's anonymous, and I ask students 3 questions. Have we met the objectives? Are they in progress? Or we not met them? The second question I ask them is that, what do you enjoy about the classroom? And I ask them, how do we improve? So I don't tell them, don't take an aim at me, but how do we improve the class? And as I mentioned, when you get students buy in, when you listen to them, it changes the whole thing. So I'd say getting them involved is one of the ways. So great question.
We have 2 comments.
Okay.
Their students are very interested in passing the class, and they can only pass the class if they build knowledge in the material and offering no curves. Another professor provides a 5-question in-class quiz, so they'll attend after every reading video assignment, and that usually works well to get students to prepare for class before the sessions. There's another comment saying AI is destroying education and what security we need to put in place to ensure
Okay,
that doesn't happen.
now, calm down. So I do think it's like anything else. It's a tool. So the reason I go back to my church, and I'm not bringing religion in it, but I would say prior to COVID, some of the churches that I attended said that is the devil. Facebook, social media is the devil. We don't like technology. But what happened with the pandemic? Most of the churches, most of the people had to use technology. So I just think we have to. AI can be. So this is why I teach my students. I don't want them to be John Henry, where they're trying to race against the train and maybe win and die. I think we have to learn how to work with AI, because I think it's reality. As a business person, it's cheaper than having people show, and some people don't show up, but that's a different story. And so AI is going to be the reality of the future. So how do you navigate that? I just think it's important. Like this summer, I have to spend some time. I have been not been paying attention with Chat GPT, but I need to understand. I'm not going to tell the students they can't use it. I'm going to try to I'm going to try to help them. How do we best navigate that? How do we do that? So I think if you technology challenge, I think we have to try to do something. Or not, you could be that cat teaching the oh, I agree. I think you can be that person that's I know some people that we're in the 23rd century, they're teaching how to use typewriter, or how to be a blacksmith. I'm just saying we have to, if we want to be relevant again, this is what it's all about: innovative learning, engage your students. If you want to engage your students, you're gonna have to try to find a way to bridge the gap of really being technology averse, or not. Okay, great
Absolutely.
questions.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Do you have any closing remarks for us?
Oh man, so yeah, let me give you closing remarks. So again, I am available if you need me to come to your institution. I am willing to do that. I just got to talk to my dean, but I'm willing to help it because I think I bring a different skill set to it because I have a different understanding. You know, even being an African-American professor, I think is a little bit challenging. So the other thing I want to thank Hogs Learning. You guys are incredible. I like what you're doing. I think it's a great platform because I think professors need information. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you a summary. How can you contact me? Great question. It's let me just go. I'm just gonna play this right quick. I'm gonna put it in the chat. But you can reach me. It's Daryl Green at okbu at edu. Okay, so I just put it in the chat, and I'm sure we're gonna provide that. So you can reach out to me. It's in my PowerPoint slides, so you're gonna get the package. Thank you, Dr. John. Love you too, brother. Appreciate all the help. So in summary, so let's summarize this. If you want to engage Generation Z, you need to do your homework. So learner-centered, I believe, learner-centered approaches is how we increase greater student outcome for this generation of students. So I provided you with several materials to make you guys successful. Again, reach out to me anytime. And I'm a storyteller, so I'm gonna share this story with you to kind of bring home the point of engaging our students. I'm from Louisiana. There was a time in the winter, there was a massive storm. It was a winter storm. There was a lady, her name was Pam. She was working in her office, and Pam decided she needed to go home. It was a blizzard she couldn't see. She got in the car. She was on the highway and could not see the lines on the road. She was nervous. She was frightened. She was scared. And she saw in the fainted distance, she saw a car. And all she could see was the back lights of the car. And she started following it. She was going slow, but she was closely behind this car. And all of a sudden, this particular car stopped on the middle of the highway. Well, Pam she could not understand this. She could not understand it. She also stopped, following closely behind that car. So she stopped, and the gentleman got out of his car and approached Pam, knocked on her car window. She was nervous. She was frightened, but she let down her window, and she said, "Sir, what are you doing? I cannot believe that you have stopped your car in the middle of the highway during a blizzard." The man looked confused. He looked at her and said, "Lady, I'm on my driveway and you're trespassing." So what am I saying? Let's break this down. Are you headed in the right direction? Are you on the right road, given the future of work? The other thing, are you following the right pattern? Are you looking back 100 years where professors will focus on subject matter, or you're looking to the future. So again, I am a resource. I am Dr. Daryl Green with Oklahoma Baptist University, and reach out to me anytime. Again, I want to thank Sidra for doing an amazing job of moderating. I want to thank Hawks Learning for providing an outstanding, amazing platform. And I am your servant. Reach out to me anytime that I can help. Dr. Green signing out.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Green, and thank you all for attending today. We will be emailing you a link to view the recording of this webinar once it's available. If you or any of your fellow instructors are interested in presenting for our Learning and Growing webinar series, please submit your proposals to the Learning and Growing website, which I'm going to go ahead and link in the chat right now for easy access. These free webinars are brought to you by Hawks Learning, an innovative educational courseware company. To learn more about our mastery-based course material and how Hawks can enhance your learning outcomes for you and for your students, please visit hawkslearning.com. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and thank you all for attending the webinar.